I am coming to you from the cybersecurity vantage point, but I do have a lot of things in here that are applicable to all our code side friends as well. So we'll be talking about both, and it wouldn't be a Code Fellows Partner Power Hour if we didn't get a little technical. So let's dive right in. First, just a little bit about me. Here's my pirate journey. I couldn't become a pirate, so instead I went and got my bachelor's in English literature. I like to joke that I use my major every day, right? I speak English all the time, so yay for me, picking a good major. But I got that and I went right into 10 years as an adventure travel guide, biking and hiking all over the world. It was a fantastic job, highly recommend it. Anyone ever wants to talk back roads, you know how to find me on Slack. But then I decided I needed to figure out a way to translate my all the incredible skills I picked up as an adventure guide and really bring those to bear in a more traditional job path. So I went back to school and got my MBA and came out of that right in 2009. So those of you that are as old or older than me might remember that wasn't the best time to be looking for a new job, but I did end up pivoting into the experiential product space. And by that, I mean things like the wine industry, adventure travel on the operations side, and outdoor recreation, and spent a good chunk of those 10 years at REI headquarters up here in the Seattle area. And then, like many of you, I found my way to Code Fellows, and I couldn't be more delighted that I did. I started off on the code side, taking a Code 101 with our very own Brooke, and then met my, I don't know if she's on, if they're on this call, but Hex, you may know, who did some incredible work this morning, met Hex in 102, and we've been code side buddies ever since. But then I actually pivoted into, nice, I'm looking at some of the chats too for all the different areas that folks are coming from. Keep them coming. I did, after I finished Code 201, I pivoted into our cyber ops program. Took that entire course from 101 to 401 and finished that up in December of 2020. And then, to my great fortune, but we'll say luck is where preparation meets opportunity, right? I was hired as the first security hire at CareRev, which is the current company that I work at. I started that in January alongside becoming a Code Fellows TA for the ops program. And then now we're about a year and a half later. I'm a Code Fellows instructor. I teach the Ops 101. I've done some instructing on the Night Ops program, and I am now managing and building a team of 4 to lead the IT and security departments at CareRev. I was hire number 50. Now we're at like about 400 people. So really building out this program. So that's enough about me. I'll give you my LinkedIn blurb at the end. So I'd love to connect with you all, but you can find me. I'm pretty easy to find on there. So yes, we will be looking at the 7 C's today. I'd love to take you on a water journey. It's actually, well, it was a nicer day here in Seattle. It's a little grunky now, but we're going to be talking about some non-tech skills and we'll get a little techie at the end. So conversion, courage, conversation, coordination, consistency, commitment, and cryptography. Yes, so we'll see how technical we can get, and we'll see how much brain power you have at that point. All right, let's dive right in. So these first 6 of the 7 C's are not the technical skills, but they are incredibly important. And as you can see, as I asked you all to start popping in the various professions that you're coming to Code Fellows from, remember, please, that you have a very valuable existence skill set. You are not starting from scratch. You might feel like you're starting over. I like to tell folks that I've had 3 great career reinventions, but a reinvention is not starting from scratch. It's taking some of the best of your old ways or old person or old self and bringing it along with you into the new part of your journey. So as you're going through your program at Code Fellows, give a lot of thought to how you're going to translate your existing skill set. And I talk to our ops students about this a lot, maybe ad nauseum. I don't know if they're on here. They might want to speak up. Oh, I see a question. Where do I work? I work at CareRev. It is actually, it's like the Uber for nursing. CareRev is a flexible healthcare staffing model. So it's essentially, we have facility users that are healthcare facilities, and we have professional users that are certified nurses. And we work with the facilities to post shifts when they need additional nurses on staff. And then the nurses can browse the app and decide, yeah, I'll pick up that shift for that amount, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I work, is at CareRev. All right, but back to the conversion topic. Do pay attention while you're picking up these incredible code skills or ops skills at Code Fellows. Pay attention to how you are going to highlight the skills that you're bringing from your old life. So for example, I mentioned that I got my MBA and I was on the business side of things for 10 years. That's come in incredibly handy in my space of governance, risk, and compliance, and managing a security program and being able to translate technical topics to business leaders and business needs to technical leaders. I know that that might seem incongruous, but actually my 10 years as a travel guide, I wouldn't have believed it at the time, but has prepared me so wonderfully for the world of cybersecurity. I almost recommend it as a prereq at this point. As a travel guide, I worked on my public speaking skills. I worked on my flexibility. I worked on the ability to synthesize huge amounts of information to create actionable plans and insights and deliver a bespoke experience to people and be able to communicate with all sorts, right? So people learn in different ways and people are motivated in different ways. And when you've got 26 very type A, very high powered folks on a luxury vacation, you want to make sure that you're speaking their language, whatever that is. So again, conversion is about speaking in an impactful way to your audience and doing the work of translation so that what you're saying matters to them in terms they understand, in terms that motivate them. But super important to remember, you're not starting from scratch. Were you a chef? Did you work in a kitchen? I bet you have crisis management skills. Maybe that's not how you would put it, but I would love to see a chef in a security and operations center because I know they can keep their head amongst the chaos of other activities. Same thing, if you were in the medical field, maybe a first responder, you might have had to deal with crisis. You might have had to figure out how to translate something very medical into more layperson's term for somebody to understand. Joshua, I see computer networking cryptography. Okay, that's pretty transferable. So we're not going to go into that one, but let's see what else. Navy hydraulics, psychiatric, appliance repair. Okay, appliance repair, right? So you could look at something pretty complicated. You probably had to be ready to deal with all sorts of appliances, whether that was a washing machine, a stove, a microwave, or what have you. Figure out what's this model? What is it? What are its peccadillos? What are its unique pieces or unique problem areas? The same can be said for networks and different connections, right? Every version, every different operating system, et cetera, has its own unique gravitational concerns, so to speak. So you could really talk about the flexibility of working with different makes and models, for example. I know we have a lot of folks that are veterans or transitioning military here. Lots of existing skill sets to translate there, right? Like being able to see the forest for the trees, right? See the big picture, see the small details. That's incredibly important in both development and security. Being able to know when you need to step back and look at the big picture or focus on minute details that will move a project forward. All right, we're gonna hit forward on this one, speaking of moving forward. All right, courage. I know you all can read for yourselves, but I'm gonna read this quote for you. It comes from the Harvard Business Review. I'm a big fan of it. People who become good leaders have a greater than average willingness to make bold moves, but they strengthen their chances of success and avoid career suicide through careful deliberation and preparation. All right, so you are all pretty courageous. You've taken a big leap, and I don't know where you all at in your Code Fellows journey, if you've just started 102 or if you're almost about to complete 401. But it took a leap of faith to come to this and decide that you were going to reinvent your career path and you're going to double down on this incredibly exciting career pathway into tech. But the courage doesn't stop there. You might graduate, you have your 401 certificate in hand. You have to have the courage to believe in yourself and to keep imposter syndrome at bay. And I can talk to you all day long about imposter syndrome, but I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say that I deal with it every day as well. I'm only about 2 years into this work in this world, and I've gotten great external accolades, but I still struggle with this. Am I the right person to make this decision? Am I the right person to lead this team or build this strategy or make this recommendation? And you've got to be able to put that aside and have courage and faith in yourself that yes, you are here for a reason. You're in your job for a reason. Speaking of jobs, you've got to have the courage to reach for those jobs that maybe look a little bit out of your grasp, but truly aren't. Case in point, ladies, I'm going to speak directly to you on this one. Very often, you've probably heard this stat, but very often a woman won't apply for a job if she doesn't check off every requirement in the job description. But job descriptions are unicorns. So even if you get a couple of them, apply. I was just talking to Sean before we start here. I apply to things all the time. I love my job, but I'm still applying because I want to know what's out there. I want to have conversations. I want to practice my interview skills. So I'm putting myself out there in many, many ways all the time, every day, outside of my work and inside. But again, you've got to take calculated risks. And that comes back to security as well. When I'm making a recommendation, I'm always keeping in mind the tension between the business side of the house and the security needs of the house. And sometimes we might decide that a certain level of risk is acceptable. And I need to have the courage to say when I agree with that, yep, this is not the tightest security, but it allows us to operate in this fashion, which will help our business succeed. And conversely, I need to have the courage to make my recommendations and my opinion known if I think the business is going on too risky of a course of action. So speak up, advocate for yourself, and have the courage to try new things. You're already doing it right now, so just keep that momentum going. All right, conversation, speaking of momentum, the art of conversation lies in listening. And I have, again, I have great gratitude for my MBA and my years on the business side of things coming into the tech world. I have realized that conversational skills, relationship skills aren't always the strongest. This is a gross overgeneralization, so please take it with many grains of salt. But those aren't always the strongest skill sets in the tech world. And we all have an opportunity to change that. We are all pretty much by our nature of being code fellows, students and alum, career transitioners. So back to that conversion, bringing all those previous skill sets, bring your conversation, bring your inquisitiveness. I like to say that curiosity is my superpower. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's 100% true. I ask a lot of questions. I ask more questions than I make declarative statements. And there are a couple of reasons for that. As a software developer, right? If you're told by your technical product manager or your boss, like, hey, we need to build this feature, ask a few more questions. You might get some nuance there that helps you over deliver on what they're actually asking for. Human beings have a tendency to be prescriptive when they're thinking of solutions that they're asking for. But with a little bit of conversation, some more questions, you might uncover not just their outspoken desires and needs for a feature or a deliverable, but you'll discover some underlying needs or some pain points that you could address. And the same goes for security. When somebody asks me if they can do something or have this access or what have you, I don't just ask, what's it for? I'll probe a little bit deeper. What problem are you trying to solve? How can I help you? And those folks that I've been a TA or instructor for know that I do this when I'm providing assistance to them as well, right? It's important to know what your destination is before you can build a solution or build that map out. The other thing I want to highlight is that, back to tying in courage and conversation, be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. And there are a couple examples of this. We had a developer at CareRev who very recently really led the conversation on changing master branch to main, right? We're trying to be more inclusive of our language, and we hadn't yet gone there yet. And it just needed a little push, a strong voice to speak up and say, hey, let's do this. It's a small thing, but it's very impactful. Also, be brave enough to start a conversation that will engender hard choices. Like, should we be doing this? I have concerns here. Don't let yourself be overshadowed because you feel unable to speak up due to your level of experience. Because good ideas, good points, they come from all corners of the room. And we like to say diversity matters. When you have diversity at the table, you have holistic solutions that support all manner of people. So be brave, speak up for diversity, inclusion, and equity conversations. Speak up for your right to be in an inclusive workspace, in a supportive workspace that supports your long-term and midterm goals and short-term goals. But the short of answer of that is be brave and have those hard conversations. All right, coordination. Developers aren't the only ones that are responsible for a product launch, and security doesn't exist in a vacuum. When new folks start at CareRev, one of the first things I tell them is that security is everyone's responsibility. Everyone at CareRev is on the security team. I'm going to go real heavy on the security one on this slide. It is not an individual effort. It's not a solo team effort. Security supports the business. And to do that, we need to be working in lockstep with other business leaders. So part of my job, for example, last year, was preparing CareRev to undergo a SOC 2 audit, which is a basically, it's kind of like a financial audit, but for security, right? So it's an independent auditor coming in, looking at our controls, policies, procedures, and saying, yeah, CareRev's doing a pretty good job. So partners, if you're looking to work with them, you can feel pretty good about it. I could not do that alone. I needed to coordinate with our people ops department, our finance, our legal, our whole executive team to do risk management exercises, tabletop exercises on business continuity and disaster recovery. I certainly needed to be in lockstep with all the engineers because the changes I was making were impactful or had impact on their workflows. So even though your job might be very narrowly focused to building this widget or running this piece of the SOC, you want to make sure that you are working in coordination with other business leaders. Again, that makes for more holistic solutions, and it increases your visibility at your company beyond just your unique role. You can live outside your role, but to do it, you're going to need some coordination efforts, and being able to see the forest for the trees and build those relationships outside of just your team or just your department are critical here. All right, consistency. Commit to addressing complexity and to tackling hard problems. So few things get very far in this world without consistency. I'm reading Atomic Habits right now, which, by the way, if you have not picked that book up, that's a great one to read in all your free time that I'm sure you have. But in the security world, you want to be consistent. You want to be, by consistent, I do not mean you never change your mind. You are an oak, and if you've made a decision, you're never going to bend. That's not what I mean by consistency. It is important to be able to be reflective enough to change your mind when new information comes in. But you do have to consistently commit to addressing complexity. So we're getting all sorts of alliteration and C words here. It's actually the 14 C's. Address those hard problems and make a decision and commit to seeing it through. We like to, perfect, Atomic Habits. We like to tell folks, don't be afraid to fail, but keep trying, keep doing those experiments so that you fail, you learn, and you iterate, and you continue to build something better. The other thing, of course, you need to do, certainly as you step into tech, is to dedicate yourself to your goals. You already know this because you've spent some time at CareRev. It's hard work and it takes dedication. The payoffs are worth it, but it doesn't stop when you graduate from Code Fellows. I am still pursuing certifications for various topics. I'm learning, I'd say I'm learning something new every day, but that's not accurate because I'm probably learning 20 something news every day. Dedicate yourself to a lifetime of continuous learning. And if that is what energizes you, just know that's going to keep coming. And you can pick your topics, right? But keep yourself dedicated to your goals. As he says in Atomic Habits, it's those small habits every day that build and prove to be impactful into your overall life. But the important thing is really that you do the work and you show up consistently. You show up consistently in your job. Even if you make a mistake, you're still there, you're still trying, you're still learning, you're still getting better day by day. All right, confession. So before I dive into this too much, another quick pirate joke. Why does it take pirates so long to learn the alphabet? I'll watch the chat for a second. Why does it take pirates so long to learn the alphabet? No guesses. Okay, it's because they can spend years at sea. So I bring this up. Sorry, I know it's really bad. I love it. I bring this up because you can get stuck sometimes. And it's okay to say, I don't know. I was one of those people that was, I won't say terrified, but pretty close to terrified to admit if I didn't know something. I just wanted to be that person that could figure it out. And at Code Fellows, one of the most impactful lessons that I learned at Code Fellows was to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and to be comfortable with saying, I don't know. I'll say it can be even better to say things like, I don't know yet, or will you show me how, or explain to me, learn from your colleagues, learn from your boss, or I'm doing some research on that. I'll get back to you. I don't have the answers right now, but I will. Or, hey, I have some questions, or just, I'm stuck, I could use some help. Again, in the professional world, if your boss gives you a task on Monday and is expecting to see it complete on Friday, and on Thursday, you still don't know what you're doing, or you've hit some really gravitational blockers, I can tell you right now, your boss will appreciate hearing about that before Friday when they think that project's going to be done. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable and get comfortable with saying all these things. You can pick the phrase that works with you. But again, nobody knows everything in tech. You've probably all learned at this point that half the battle is getting really good at Googling. So it's okay to not know, but have confidence in yourself that you can figure out the answer with all your resources, your fellow students, your informal board of advisors, your boss, your colleagues, etc. You have a wealth of resources at your disposal. And of course, there's always Google. So it's okay to say you don't know, but keep that going and add the yet, because you can figure it out. All right. So those are some of my non-technical skills for you of the 7 C's. Let's pivot into a little bit of something technical. All right. So we are going to talk about cryptography. I mean, it was the perfect opportunity to add the skull and crossbones here. So cryptography, this is relevant for you devs and my cyber ops folks, right? So cryptography, there are sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Brooks says, one of the best interview answers I've ever heard of an interviewer. I don't know, but this is where I look. Absolutely. I've definitely given an answer like that in interviews. And they're very often not concerned if you don't know the answer. They want to know what your thought process, like, okay, you don't know, but what's your thought process? How would you figure that out? It's a lot. As a hiring manager, I want to hire folks that are curious, that will admit when they don't know something and get after it until they do figure it out. So I'm always happy to know if someone doesn't know and what resources they're going to use to inform themselves. Back to cryptography though. Cryptography there is, at its very heart, it's math. As I told you, was not a math major. I was an English major, but I really geeked out on some of this. And cryptography is applicable to devs who are trying to code in a secure environment, make sure their applications, what they're building, are secure. We like to say shift security left, so build it securely. Don't build it and then go back and shoehorn security in. And of course, cryptography is always going to be a topic for security professionals. 5 primary functions: authentication, integrity, key exchange, non-repudiation, and privacy and confidentiality. And it's this last topic I'm going to dive in just a little bit here. So sorry, I keep getting off my cursor off. So we're going to briefly touch on symmetric encryption, but then we're really going to talk about asymmetric encryption. But to give you, you can probably surmise the difference here, but to give you a little visual, symmetric encryption uses the same, we'll say just the same math to encrypt a message as it does to decrypt a message. So if you're the sender, you can see you've got a plain text message, but it's really sensitive. So you want to encrypt it, give it a little layer of protection, jumble it up, like send the secret code. So you use an encryption key. And this makes your message hello into gobbledygook that nobody else can really figure out. So that's the ciphertext that then gets sent out over the interwebs to its end destination, where it gets decrypted with the same math. And that then converts it into plain text, and your recipient sees the message hello. It is usually pretty fast. There's lots of great applications for symmetric encryption, but asymmetric encryption, a little bit different, a little bit slower, but a little bit more, actually quite a bit more secure. So this is what we're going to dive into. You can see it's pretty much the same setup with a very big key differentiator here, in that you are encrypting your message with a different math problem. Sorry, I keep air quoting math problem, than you are using to decrypt it. Okay. So now we're going to dive into the math. One of the most common asymmetric algorithms is called RSA, and it's named after the 3 men who invented it, Rivest, Shamir, and Edelman, but nobody really remembers their names, so we just call it RSA. It's a lot faster. And I've got this little visual over here on the right to, again, remind you that we're talking about asymmetric encryption, where you have a public key and a private key. The public key, actually, let me go back real quick. The public key is this red one. It's the one, like, say that I want Brooke to send me a secret message. I don't know what we're sharing secrets about, but Brooke's going to send me a secret message. So he gets my public key, and he uses that key to lock up the message so that nobody else can read it. So I have my public key. He has my public key. Maybe Sean is also going to send me a message. She has that same public key. They send those messages through the interwebs, and I use my private key, known only to me, to unlock that message. So public key, as its name insinuates, public, it's out there, anyone can use it. I can hand it out to Hex, Sean, James, anyone who wants to use it to send me a message. But the private key is mine and mine alone, and I am the only one that can use it to unlock those messages. If somebody were to get a hold of my my private key or that algorithm, they too could unlock all my private messages. Let's go back to this and talk about the math a little bit. So symmetric or asymmetric cryptography really comes down to really, really big prime numbers and factors. So I'm going to walk you through in a minute here on a spreadsheet how we're going to put this together with math. But to get us started, I want you to just follow along here for a second. To get going and how we're going to build a public key, we would choose two very large prime numbers. In our example, we're going to pick small ones because the math is way easier for this demo. But basically, you're going to find some really large numbers that would take an intense amount of computer power to figure out what the factors are and make it a lot more difficult to crack. Then you're going to, this all makes sense in a minute when I just want to walk you through it. Then you're going to take some other letters in this case. You're going to figure out what n is, and n is the product of those two large prime numbers, p and q. Then you're going to take another letter here, the t, which is the Euler totient, and that is going to be equal to the prime number p minus 1 times the prime number q minus 1. You with me so far? I know it's getting really exciting. Then you're going to choose two numbers, E and D. E is going to stand for encryption. That's your public key. And the D is going to be decryption. That's your private key. And you want to make sure that E times D with a mod T equals 1. Courtney, what the heck is a mod? Mod, or which is short for modulo, is a math operation. Maybe some of you know this, but if you don't, it's a math operation that finds the remainder when one integer is divided by another. I will explain that when I have numbers up. It'll make more sense if you don't know what that is yet. Okay, so once you figured out all these different letters, then you've got E and N, that is your public key, what you would use, what I would give to Sean, Brooke, James, or whatever to encrypt a message. And you would keep D and N secret. That is your private key. So that's what I would know to decrypt my messages, right? I know this probably makes a whole lot of sense right now. So we're going to dig into the numbers and we're going to do a little bit of math. Let me make this bigger so y'all can see it. I've got a couple of things pre-populated. All right, somebody give me a chat window if this is big enough, or a chat message if this is big enough, or if I need to make it bigger. Okay, we're just going to go for it. And thank you, Brooke, for your ciphertext message in there. All right, so these are our directions again up here. Choose two very large numbers, let n, all those things we just covered. So first things first, let's pick our two prime numbers. And again, in true asymmetric cryptography, you'd be picking very, very large numbers. But for the sake of our math example, we are going to go with some smaller ones. We're going to go with 2 and 7. And I'm going to show you how to build this, this public key and then use a private key to decrypt it. Again, the computer will be doing all this, but it's kind of nice to know what's going on behind the hood. So we've got our two numbers, P2 and Q equals 7. We take those to figure out n. Again, that's 2 times 7. So our n, part of our public and private key, is 14. And then we use all of these numbers to figure out our Euler totient. So we take P minus 1, so that's 2 minus 1, times Q minus 1, or 7 minus 1. That gives us T equals 1 times 6. That gives us a T value of 6. So now we've got all of these numbers. We need to figure out what E and D are. So let's choose E. Now we can't just pick any old number that we want. Remember that it's got to be a prime number. And for reasons I won't super go into, it has to be less than 6. And it also needs to be co-prime with 14, our n value, with 14, our n value, and with 6, our t value. All right, so these are the rules for how you pick it. I don't make the rules, but these are what they are. So E needs to be less than 6, and it needs to be co-prime with 14 and 6, which means co-prime means that it's not going to share any factors. So less than 6, all right, let's mark that out. Less than 6 would be 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're going to eliminate 1. We're not using 1. So let's think about this. It's not going to be 2. 2 is not co-prime with 6 and 14 because 6 and 14 have 2 as a factor. All right, we can erase that. That's also going to take 4 away because 4 has a factor of 2, as do 14 and 6. So we can eliminate 4. 3 shares a factor itself with 6. So we can eliminate 3 as well. Bingo, we already have our E there. So E is 5. We're halfway there, folks. Okay. So now we got to figure out what D is. And here's our equation for figuring out what D is. E times D mod 6 equals 1. What does that look like? All right. So let's first take our number 5. We'll put it in this column. We'll put it in this column here. So that's our 5. And we're going to do multiples of 5 right here. We're going to let Excel do all the work. All right. 1, 2, 3. Let's pull these down. We're going to pull this down to Oh, I didn't pull it down, sorry. As my friends here would say, if we wanted it perfect, we'd do a video, right? Let's make sure I got a little bit more here. Okay. All right, and we're going to do a little formula in here. We want multiples of 5, so we're going to take that column times 5, autofill, all right? So these are all our multiples of 5. So that is our E times D, right? E is 5, and we're going to get all the different factors of 5 going up here. All right, now we want to figure out mod 6. So mod, like I mentioned, is essentially gives you a remainder. So how many times does 6 go into 5? 6 doesn't go into 5 anytime. So the remainder of that would be 5. How many times does 6 go into 10? It goes into 6 goes into 10 one time with a remainder of 4. So the mod 6 of 10 would be 4. And we actually have a formula for that. So it's going to make it really easy for us. So we take this number here, and then we're going to take our divisor, which is 6 because it's mod 6, and that autofills that. So like I mentioned, 6 goes into 10 one time and gives us a remainder of 4. 6 goes into 15 2 times and gives us a remainder of 3. That's the mod. Now we can look up it here and know that whatever we pick has to give us a mod or a remainder of 1. So let's look at what those numbers are. We got this one here, and we've got this one here. And we've got, I have a screen in front of me here. All right, and we've got this one here. These are all giving us a 1. There'd be more. We could keep going, but we're trying to keep it a little bit simple. So I'm not going to get 5 because I don't want my public key and my private key to be the same. That'd be really bad asymmetric encryption. But let's just pick the next one. We're going to pick 11. So et voila, we have our D. We're going to pick 11. All right, let's put this into practice. So our public key is now 5, and that N, which is 14. This is what I give out for people who want to encrypt the message. This is the math behind that algorithm. And our private key is 11 and 14. All right. So let's use these to encrypt and decrypt a message. So first of all, we know that computers work in numbers and not really letters. So let's put our own little thing together here. Actually, we'll go over one here. Well, no, I'll leave this up here. Okay. A equals 1. B equals 2, C equals 3. So if I'm crafting a message with these letters in it, I'm going to convert them to numbers. So today we're going to say that my message begins with the letter B. All right. So let's go ahead and start encrypting. This is how we do the work. Okay. And here's our formula for encryption. So we've got our message. Our message is B. So we're going to convert that to a number. B equals 2. And then we are going to do this math right here. So that is 2 to the power of 5. Actually, let me put here we go. 2 to the power of 5 times mod 14. Okay, right? Because 2 is our number. That's our message. E, that's our power of 5. And then mod 14. N is 14. All right. And happily for us, Excel or Google Sheets can actually do all this math. So power 2 times 5. Okay, so we've got 32, and then we want to take the mod of that. So we go mod 32, and our divisor is 14, and that gives us 4. All right. Yes, thank you, Brooke. RSA typically uses numbers like massive numbers that have 100 to 150 digits. We're going really simple here. So this is our encrypted message. Our encrypted message is 4, which translates to D. So whatever message I sent that starts with the letter B now starts with the letter D. All right, so perfect. We've encrypted it. We'll keep encrypting all those different letters. Now let's figure out how we use our private key to decrypt it. Now I'm going to use this formula. Decrypt equals the number to the D power mod N. So again, now our message, instead of being B, is actually D. That is that ciphertext. That's what we're translating here. So the message is D. D, as we decided, equals 4 over here. So 4 is our number. Taking this formula, we go 4 to the 11th power, because remember we're using D, times mod of 14. Oops. Hold please. All right, to mod of 14. All right, so again, using Google Sheets to do all the work, we'll go power 4 to the 11th That gives us a pretty darn big number, not as big as we're using 150-digit prime number to start with. That gives us 4,194,304. And when we've got a tool like this, we can go ahead and actually just do the mod on it. So we'll go mod, but there's shortcut ways to do this too. I'm not going to bother showing you just now. All right, so that's our number that we're going to take the mod of 14 at. Et voila, we get 2. 2, as we know, equals B. We have decrypted our message. And that's how these two work together in some really short math problems here. So now you know a little bit about how to encrypt. I'm sure you're all ready to go out and write your own encryption algorithms. But let's go. Yeah, it worked. Eureka! So let's go back over here for a second if I can get my zooms. There we go. All right. And since we are getting close to the end, I do want to have a couple of minutes for questions. Let's wrap this up. So final thoughts. As I mentioned, I lay really heavy-handed on this, but you have so many skills that you can offer. All those C's. You've been sailing the seas your whole life. Bring all that knowledge with you into your new role in the tech space. And keep working on those skills while you're at Codefellows. It's not just about learning how to write perfect Python or executing some incredible functions in JavaScript. It is also about building your LinkedIn, building your personal brand, translating how you're going to bring your experience in the military or in the kitchen or in marketing to your new role in the tech space. Soft skills matter. Sometimes they matter even more. A lot of folks like to say, hey, I can teach someone the hard skills. I can teach them the tech skills. Soft skills like intelligence, or sorry, not intelligence, your emotional intelligence, conversational skills, those can be more challenging for someone to learn. Continue to work on them though, always have a growth mindset. But I do take a little bit of issue with the term soft skills. So we're going to stop using that altogether, and we're going to call them human skills, because these are how you relate to individuals. These are how you truly get work done, and they are powerful. So I like to abandon the term soft skills. Sometimes I use non-tech, but really I like human skills better. Of course, there are many more C's out there: character, cooperation, change, compliance is, of course, very big in the security world, critical thinking, clarity, and then, of course, my favorite one, caffeine. I could use more of that this afternoon. I'd love to see you all drop your favorite C's in the chat. Let me know. We can keep this alliteration going all the time. And I do have a snippet of code I could share, but I think we're running low. So we'll see if we have any questions first. And yeah. I don't know. Let's see if we have any questions. I don't know, Sean, if anything's come through in the Q&A, but go ahead. Yep. Compartmentalization, cultural competence. Yes, I like these. Keep them coming.
Nothing in the Q&A yet. So everyone put in those questions.
All right. I will actually, let me do this while people are thinking about questions. I'll pull up some VS Code here and run a little code for you that if you're in the ops coursework, you'll probably write something very similar. So I got to move my video here. Let's run this. Okay. Gives us a menu. I'm using a Fernet library. It's actually a symmetric key, but we'll pretend it's asymmetric because that's what I just spent 15 minutes talking about. Serves up a menu asking if I want to encrypt a file, encrypt a message, encrypt a folder. We'll go ahead and encrypt a little message, right? Our message will be hello. It serves us back our encrypted message, everything after this little apostrophe. That is our encrypted message. Let's do something else. Let's look at encrypting a file. All right, so let's encrypt a file. I made it easy on myself by grabbing something I could copy and paste. Let's go here. We're going to encrypt this file. File is encrypted. Let's actually see if it is encrypted. I think I need to share my whole screen to show you this. So let's go. Here we go. All right, so I pull up my Finder for you all. Oh, nope. Okay. All right, so I encrypted this file here. You can open it up and see, in fact, yep, it's gobbledygook. Let's decrypt it and see what we get. Okay, decrypt a message. That is option 4. Okay, same file. Let's open that file up again and see what we got. Oh, it didn't work. Sorry, I didn't even see all the errors in my code. Oh, good demo, Court. Good demo. All right, let's see if we can decrypt it again. All right, decrypt a file. I picked the wrong menu option. All right, there we go. And let's look at our file now. Oh, I didn't close it. That's why. Good demo. One more time. just for fun. Ugh, invalid. All right. Well, you get my point.
We've
But
got some questions if you want.
yeah, perfect. All right, great. I can stop showing my broken demo and I can take questions.
You know what? You try. Isn't that the Brooke, I feel like this is a semi-loaded question. What's in the horizon for your career journey?
I shared with Brooke earlier, and I shared with Sean right before we started that, and I don't share this to brag, please know, I'm sharing this because it's really a good illustration of how much Code Fellows has changed my life. I was laid off in 2020 before I came to Code Fellows. It's my 4th career layoff. What can I say? I pick risky work. And I am now in a job that I love. I've been promoted a couple of times. And in April, a recruiter from Google reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in applying for a technical program manager job. And I will always say yes to interview. I will always say yes to that practice. And so I went through Google's process, 3 recruiter calls and 6 interviews later, 3 of them technical, 3 of them more behavioral. I was offered a job at Google last week. And so now I'm debating whether or not to stay at my current job or move to Google. So anyway, again, not to brag, but just to say, like, I'm in a great place. I have 2 really compelling, really exciting and positive options in front of me. And it's really thanks to all the preparation I got at Code Fellows and I'll say the continued work that I put in to keep networking, keep working on my tech and my human skills, and have the courage to put myself out there.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that. That's such a
so this can be you too.
Tom actually asked in the chat, do you have a strategy or method for when you encounter coding problems?
Like just now? Yeah, well, mostly I just sweat if it's in front of other people. But yeah, the other skill that I really picked up in Code Fellows is debugging. And that applies to code and to just any problem, right? Like if something's not working, examine it piece by piece. Maybe it's something really basic. Maybe it's something that it's something like a colon that you forgot or semicolon or what have you. I know in the development world, we talk about like explaining it to the rubber duck, right? Sometimes you need a different perspective. That could be somebody else's perspective. That could be a different perspective you get from getting up and walking away from your problem or your code and coming back at it a little bit refreshed. So when I encounter coding problems, I'll try a couple things, try, fail, learn, try again. But if it's really challenging, if I'm really stuck, I will pull in a different perspective, either my own after it's been altered in some positive way or somebody else's. All right, and let's see, I got, feel free to not answer, but what's the compensation at your current job and the offer at Google? Sean, I'm perfectly comfortable talking about this. Does anybody have any concerns if I do talk about this? I think salary transparency is really positive. So, okay. So when I started at CareRev, I will say I didn't have a great benchmark of where I wanted to come in at, and I was really excited to start that job. I knew my boss before I started, so I came in at 105,000 with benefits and potential bonus and all that good stuff. About 6 months later, without me asking at all, my boss promoted me and gave me a raise to 130. And then I was offered a job with PricewaterhouseCoopers that month, and I talked to him about it, not as leverage, but because I have a very open conversation and relationship with my boss. And he used that as leverage with our finance department to market rate adjust my salary and bring me up to 180,000 a year with target bonus of 20%. I also have equity because it's a startup. Google, when they asked me what my compensation expectations were, I went high, not like ridiculously laugh in the face high, but I think I pitched them like 225,000. And I can't remember what I pitched for equity and I think target bonus or performance bonus. And the recruiter came back and said, hey, I'm not going to be able to get you there, but here's what the team gave me as a start. And they offered 140K base, a 15% target performance bonus, 195,000 in equity, and a $10,000 signing bonus. If I get serious about accepting this offer, I will come back with my negotiation, right? They always ask for a little bit more, so each party feels like they can give and take a little bit and win. But the way they did that math is they dole out the shares 33% the first year and the second year. And then I think it's like 23% and 12% in the third and fourth. So they can really boost what that year one comp looks like. So the decision for me about whether or not to stay at CareRev or go to Google is not really financially driven. It's really more what aligns with my midterm goal, which is CISO or Chief Information Security Officer role readiness for me. And I know some people have to go because we're already at 101, but there's another question here, so I'll answer it. What are your thoughts on current hiring process? I've seen some crazy stuff while applying. I think unicorn job postings, culture fit, personality tests, resume screening, introduce bias without really improving hiring decisions. Yeah, that's another one where you can have courage and have those hard conversations. I've spoken up at my work about my concerns about the length of our interview process. It's not as long as Google, but in some interview roles, we have what we call a culture fit. And yes, we need training around how to prevent bias from creeping into the interview process, because humans like to bucket people and things and whatnot. So yeah, I do think there are unicorn postings. I think you should go for them, even if you don't fit everything. And I think that once you're in a workplace, if you see a hiring practice that looks like it could be biased, you should feel empowered to speak up about it. And then the last question in the chat, it looks like, can you talk about transitioning to cybersecurity? I think you said you took up through code 201 and then switched to ops. I'm in 201, but still interested in cyber. I would love to come back and do 301 and 401. I will eventually. I haven't yet, but transitioning to cyber, when I first was given the opportunity, I hesitated for a bit because I really loved the code side, but I didn't want to be, and I'm not saying any of you are like this, I didn't want to be a developer that didn't know what was going on underneath the hood. I was just your average computer user, had never touched the terminal before Code Fellows, didn't know anything about networking. And so I thought, you know what, I can always get back to coding. Let's dive in and learn a little bit more about networking and all the hardware, and then we'll see where this goes. But I loved it. And I really quickly learned that I could find my way around the tech stuff, right? I had been a bike guide for 10 years, like I mentioned, and I learned how to repair bikes. I can figure things out. I am a good Googler. I'm a solid Googler, using that as a verb. And so yeah, that you just got to try things. And in cybersecurity, it's so broad. You might not love governance, risk, and compliance. I happen to love it, but you might love pen testing, or you might really like threat detection, but not like malware analysis. So there's so many different opportunities to pursue a niche that works for you in cybersecurity. So it's worth trying. And you can go into code and work in security. You can go into security and work in coding. It can all be done. So yes, and to wrap it up, I will say, I'll echo what Brooke said. I followed my curiosity. I wanted to know more about this. I figured if I don't like it, great. The nice thing about decisions is if it turns out to be a decision that doesn't work for you, you can make a new decision. So try things, figure out what you love, what you're good at, what you're passionate about. And if you're not finding it, try something new. And yes, Ops 101 is coming up a week from tomorrow. So if you'd like to join me for that one, I'm sure these fine folks can help you get there.
Thank you so much for your time, Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney has a really great example of how she started one thing, followed her curiosity, and went to something else. I love hearing her story, and I hope everyone in the audience did as well. Thank you for your time again. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone out there. It looks like you have somebody who took Ops 101 out there with you.
Oh yeah, hi.
And
Perfect. And I just dropped my LinkedIn in the chat too.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Connect with Courtney on LinkedIn. Make sure you send her a message. Let her know a little bit about yourself so she's not just getting random requests. That's really important in LinkedIn land. You got to send a message with your request.
Contact.
Yes, absolutely. Make those connections. All right, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.